For Your Vote 2018, candidates are busy fundraising for their campaigns. In the race for governor, the Arizona Public Media Data Team looked at the top 3 candidates who raised the most money by the end of last year and where most of those donations came from. The 3 best-known candidates for governor are Governor Doug Ducey, State Senator Steve Farley, and David Garcia, who ran for Arizona Supervisor of Public Instruction in 2014. Governor Ducey came into 2018 with the most money in his campaign account, $2.6 million. Senator Farley began the year with not quite $250,000 in the bank. And David Garcia had just shy of $95,000. But digging deeper, we learn a bit about the campaigns. A third of the contributions to the Ducey re-election campaign in 2017 came from private industry executives, people who listed their occupation as CEO, owner, president, for example. The amount that group gave was close to $800,000. For candidate Farley, that group donated about $65,000, making up 13% of Farley's total last year. Executives gave Garcia $40,000, making up 8% of his donations. All 3 candidates had one thing in common. Retirees are either the number 1 or number 2 largest group giving them money. With Steve Farley, retirees made up a third of his donors. Officials with AARP say those numbers are not surprising because retirees tend to be politically engaged. The data also show where candidates get their money. Our team looked at all donations but focused on in-state contributions. The red on the map represents zip codes where people contributed to one of the gubernatorial candidates in 2017. Paradise Valley and Scottsdale are where the majority of Ducey campaign donors live. Steve Farley draws heavily from his Tucson legislative district. David Garcia draws most heavily from the urban center of Phoenix and Tempe, which traditionally leans Democratic. As conventional wisdom goes, the candidate with the most money usually wins. However, research from the University of Arizona School of Information indicates the emergence of a new type of campaign currency on social media. A few weeks ago, we spoke to Professor Yotam Shmargad, who explained how certain endorsements on Twitter potentially swayed voters in federal races.
All we're seeing is that if you're at a financial disadvantage, and on average the people who share your message are popular, they have a lot of retweets, they have a lot of favorites on their own posts, then you can do better at the polls. In some cases, people actually overcome and win in a race where they're at a financial disadvantage, but usually it just gets you closer and closer. Money still outweighs social media.
President Trump, he's very active on Twitter, so if you get him involved, I mean, you're almost well ahead of any competition.
Yeah, you know, I have not seen Trump in there as a big hub for people. That's not to say that he's not in the data set. It's a large data set and we haven't gone through everything, but we've started by looking at races that you'd expect would go one way and ended up going another way and seeing who the influencers in those races were, and Donald Trump has not appeared there. It's a lot of accounts that you wouldn't expect. So just off the top of my head, like Chat Revolve is one account that pops up all the time. Some of these accounts are a little bit less obvious.
But they have the potential to really cause an impact to an election.
Yeah, what our data is showing is that there are these sort of silent hubs that, and they're not silent in some ways because they have a lot of followerships and their messages get shared. But there's also this sort of broader question, which is, are these endorsements reflecting just things that are happening on Twitter, or are they reflecting some more traditional media exposure that's associated with these endorsements or that is created as a result of these endorsements?
Here, Arizona is a conservative stronghold. Are we seeing any candidates or anybody of note yet that has sort of aligned themselves with perhaps President Trump that's given them some traction in their campaign?
I think it's too early to tell how well people are going to do. I mean, we haven't even run into the primaries yet. I think once the August rolls around, then we'll start seeing who the major players are, and I'll be looking very carefully at their social media behavior. So
here we are in the spring. We'll have a special election later this summer, and then come the August primaries. What are you seeing as far as trends are concerned for social media here in Arizona?
The big stories around social media right now are not so much around endorsements, but around targeted advertising. So the counter to what I've been talking about, which is, if you don't have money, you can use social media to close the gap. There's the other side of it, which is that social media can actually be used to overwhelm a financially disadvantaged competitor simply because you have more resources to personalize and target messages to particular constituents. So I think we're going to see quite a bit more of that